King Malaika sacrifices newborn for power. In the ancient kingdom of Azura, King Malaika ruled with an iron fist. It was said that his rulership was the worst thing that ever happened to Africans south of the Sahara. He was so notorious that even the colonial masters almost were unable to stretch their imperial domains across the expanse of his kingdom. He would butcher erring citizens and feed their remains in the wolves he domesticated. He wielded so much dreadful influence that the neighboring kingdoms would rather pay homage to him than dare to provoke him into warfare. Above anything else, his ruthlessness stemmed from fetish practices. As a result of his dabbling with the occult, he believed that the key to his longevity and domains lay in the darkness of the magic. The dreaded sacrifice of Anafesa. Every full moon, he would sacrifice a young child to the gods of darkness, believing that their innocent blood would grant him another year of life and unflinching control of the affairs of the kingdom. The children were chosen by the king's sorcerers, who would select the pure and innocent souls. It was believed that the only criteria for the potency of these sacrifices had to stem from undiluted life forms. As the years passed, the kingdom prospered, but at a terrible cost. It was a conundrum. There was plenty of food and crops and animals for barter at the market, but one had to live in extreme fear. The people lived in fear of king's wrath and the dreaded night of sacrifice. The night of sacrifice were not hidden from the knowledge of the dwellers in the kingdom. The whispered stories of the king's cruelty and fate that awaited those who crossed him. Parents lived in constant fear of losing their children, and the sound of the sorcerer's drum striking the hour of sacrifice was a constant reminder of the horror that lurked in the shadows. Such fear would make even pineapple taste like lemons in the mouths of the village folk. If one made enough effort, they could touch this with their palms. It was almost tangible. One brave young girl, Tandeka, decided to take a stand against the king's evil deeds. Though this called for extreme risk and bravery, she told herself that what was left for her to be afraid of was only fear itself. She had lost her own brother, Kibo, to the king's sacrifice 2 years prior and had vowed to avenge his death. Tandeka was a skilled warrior in the women's wing of the king's guard and had been training in secret with a group of rebels. With the help of a wise old sorcerer named Wangari, who had once served the king but had grown disillusioned with his cruelty, she embarked on a dangerous quest to overthrow the king and shatter the curse that had consumed him. Wangari served the king meticulously until she took ill and left the king's service. Well, that was the official version of the story surrounding her retirement from the king's court. Why she actually left was she could not bear the king's cruelty any longer. Tendeka's journey was fraught with peril. She had to navigate treacherous forests, avoiding deadly traps and fight off fierce warriors loyal to the king. She encountered strange creatures and overcame treacherous obstacles, but she refused to back down. With each step, she drew closer to her destiny, to free the kingdom from the grip of the darkness and restore light of hope. Regardless of discouragement, she was not going back. She had heard the story of a strong girl in a West African land who eventually became a queen, though this was in a distant kingdom far away. It served as an inspiration. This queen was Amina of Zaria. She remembers this whenever it felt like she could not achieve this, especially looking at disadvantage in the gender parity of her femininity. As she traveled, Tandeka discovered that the king's power was rooted in an ancient artifact, a dark crystal that amplified his magic. She knew that if she could destroy the crystal, she could break the curse and free the kingdom. But the crystal was well guarded and the king's sorcerers were constantly searching for her. This proved to be beyond achievement ordinarily. Tandeka and Wangari snuck into the castle, disguising themselves as court servants in the palace. They made their way to the throne, where the king awaited, surrounded by his guards. Tandeka confronted the king, her heart pounding in her chest and nearly literally popping out. "You have taken too much from us, King Malaika," she declared. "Today, your reign of terror ends." The king sneered, but Tandeka stood firm. With a flick of her wrist, she summoned a blast of energy that sent the guards flying. The supernatural energy she summoned and wielded flung the guards, flinging them on the walls of the throne. Hungary joined the battle, casting spells that weakened the king's dark magic. The king retaliated with a wave of darkness, but Tandeka was prepared. She drew upon the king the power of her ancestors and the light of the full moon, channeling it into a powerful strike that shattered the king's defenses. The guards were all immobilized by this time and had no awareness of what was going on. The fight was intense, with spells and swords clashing in a spectacular display of light and sound. But in the end, Tandeka emerged victorious. She struck the final blow, shattering the curse that had consumed the king. The darkness lifted, and the kingdom of Azura was finally free. People could eventually live free lives without undue fear of service that was even worse than the slavery perpetrated by the hated white men from Europe and America. The people rejoiced and Tandeka was hailed as a hero, although the rule had always been about straight family line succession to the throne, and only men had been kings in Azura. Tandeka was crowned Queen of the Realm. After all, the king and his council had inflicted a stranglehold on the people wickedly that the decision for the future now rested on the shoulders of the people. Not a small council in any conclave, she ruled Azura with wisdom and kindness, restoring the light of hope and banishing the shadows of fear. She made sure that the kingdom never again suffered under the weight of darkness and fear, and she never forgot the sacrifice of her brother, Kibo, and the bravery of Wangari, who had stood by her side through her journey. Wangari resumed her duties at the palace after Tandeka enthroned and served as her most trusted advisor. Tandeka's reign was long and prosperous, and she became known as the bringer of light. The people whispered stories of her bravery and the magic that lay within her, and though the memory of King Malaika's cruelty never faded, it served as a reminder of the dangers of ambition and the power of courage and determination. Years later, when Tandeka's time on this earth had come to an end, the people of Azura remembered her as a hero and a symbol of hope. They told stories of her legendary bravery and the magic that had flown through her veins, and they knew that as long as they stood together and fought against darkness, the light of hope would never truly fade. Thank you so much for watching our video. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications.